single engine piston over the North Atlantic at night. Well, what could go wrong? Well, let's find out in the hangar. Hello, welcome to In the Hangar. I'm Dan Milliken.
And I'm Christy Wong. Today's episode is brought to you by Gold Seal and iFly GPS. And I noticed that you're wearing the blue shirt, even though you said your favorite was the green.
Yeah, I do like the green, but I thought I would let people know that I'm a good sport about it all. So here's the blue shirt.
Well, thank you. The blue matches my eyes, so I really appreciate that. Dan, who do we have with us
We
today?
have with us an incredible author and pilot, Kerry D. McCauley. Kerry, thanks for coming and joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, so Kerry, you have been a ferry pilot. I've read your book, and your book is truly amazing. What made you want to write a book?
Well, I'd come back from all these amazing trips that I had all over the world and would come back and talk to my friends and family, and they encouraged me to write a book so they could ignore me from afar rather than in person because,
The ultimate social distance.
yeah, I would go on and tell me.
Well, you've got some fantastic stories, actually. I mean, I could go on and on just having read your book.
Yeah, they made my jaw drop at times. And, the first thing I've got to ask, because maybe the culture's different today, but just reading the book, I'm just like, OMG, how could you make those kind of decisions back then? Flying straight through thunderstorms and doing all that kind of stuff. Was the culture different back when you were doing the ferry flights compared to today?
A little bit, but a lot of it, that you'll see in the book, a lot of the decisions that I make are mission-oriented. We had a
Right.
job to do, and it's delays our money and safety and everything. But yeah, the culture is definitely a little more cowboy back then than it is now.
Yeah, no. So there's one story in particular, if you wouldn't mind talking about it, regarding your first wife. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Sure. Along the way, trying to build hours to become a ferry pilot, I started skydiving so I could fly skydivers, and really loved skydiving. And my wife wasn't going to be left out of the fun because she saw how much fun I had. So on her seventh jump, solo jump, she was doing static line. She flew a little too far downwind and didn't make it back over the tree line that she'd flown over and landed in the trees. Perfectly fine, but hanging 60 feet up. So we tried to go up and get her. I was halfway up the tree, but she was a pretty independent girl, and she got out of the harness herself and she wasn't going to wait for me to come save her, so she was trying to get down by herself. Unfortunately, she slipped and fell and didn't survive, so it's kind of a...
Yeah, that's a really tragic story.
You talk about that in the book. What kind of a toll did that take on you? I mean, it's easy to just that's just one chapter of the book. But I mean, how did you get past that? And what was life like for you in the days, weeks, and months after that event?
That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through, obviously. But I couldn't just curl up and die. I know that's what she wouldn't have wanted. She was very adventurous. She was a real go-getter, and she wouldn't have been very happy if I'd have just stopped doing anything. And so I kind of used that emotion and those feelings to just drive forward even more, harder. I started skydiving even more, flying again, and just drove on.
Do you think it gave you kind of like a more fearless attitude towards things, or were you just more determined at that point?
A little bit. Unfortunately, I had a lot of incidents early on there was a mid-air collision with some skydivers, and they didn't survive. They were really good friends of mine. And after a while, it was like, you know what, we're all on this planet for a very short time. We don't know how long it's going to be, so there's no sense in trying to tiptoe through life only to arrive at death in perfect condition. Might as well just go for it. So that's kind of the attitude I took. And
Well, you wrote in the book that you told your mother when you were growing up that you were gonna live only to 37 or something. What was that?
yeah, I don't know where I came up with that number, but I thought back then that if I didn't live the life that I thought I should, that I wouldn't survive any longer than that. I figured I would for sure get killed by then, because that's the life I wanted to live. Interesting thing, once I started doing it, I found out that people that die young doing those things, the community they're from, they don't call them heroes, they call them dummies. Like, you're not supposed to get killed doing that stuff. That doesn't mean you don't take risks, but you're supposed to survive. So be good at what you're doing.
All right, speaking of being good at what you're doing and surviving, your first Atlantic crossing. So your boss in the ferry business is in a plane ahead of you, and he loses all his instrumentation. And then you have to fly up there and be his, what is a blind person with, you have to be his cane through the clouds. What if you guys lose visual in IMC? I mean, tell us that story.
Yeah, well, my first trip, I'm by myself in the plane. I'm flying a Beach Duchess, and my boss is about 15 minutes ahead of me. And I'd finally gotten to the point where I wasn't terrified anymore of being 1,000 miles out to sea, having a great day. It's like, you know what, this ferry stuff isn't too bad.
That was your first mistake.
That was my first mistake, obviously. I'm like, this is so easy. My boss has done this over 100 times. Why was I scared? And then he called me, and he'd lost his vacuum pump, which means he'd lost all his instruments. And like me now, the last time he'd practiced partial panel was never. So he wasn't really excited about the prospect of flying the rest of the night through low clouds and heavy rain.
And this is 30 years ago. There was no GPS.
No, he was like, and it was going to be an NDB approach. First we got to find the island in the middle of the Atlantic. We're going down to the Azores. So he had the great idea. He was going to circle in place and let me catch up, and then he would use me as his artificial horizon. So yeah, good thing we practiced that. No, we didn't practice that. But it was kind of nice because it took my mind off of being terrified being over the Atlantic, because I was terrified of the position lights over my shoulder, bobbing and weaving, because if he was ever good at formation flying, he'd lost that skill by that time.
Was there any close moments in that approach in the soup?
There's a couple times that he was running up, after a while.
Trading paint?
Just about, I'm looking and I'm trying to hold and I'm on instruments too. And I'm trying to watch him at the same time going, so this is ferry flying. Nice. Yeah. But we made it, and that was my first leg of a 30-year career that was, it was kind of prescient because a lot of stuff's happened.
Well, AOPA did an episode on you about a particular incident. Would you care to share that story with us?
Yeah. Sure. That's kind of my Apollo 11 moment, as it were. I was flying a Beech Bonanza F-33. I was taking it to Paris. And the plan was from St. John's, Newfoundland, go down to the Azores and then up to Paris. But when I got to St. John's, I saw that the winds aloft were just smoking above, straight to Paris, basically. And I did some calculations, like, I can make this on the gas in my ferry tanks. I can make it in one go. And I can save a whole day off my trip instead of going down to the Azores and back up.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. And it's my job as a ferry pilot to save the company money, save the distance, save the fuel, the hotel. The fact that I was going to get to spend a whole night in Paris, extra night, had nothing to do with my decision. I
never
swear
does.
to God, So about 4 hours into that flight, I turned the ferry tank on to move fuel out to the wings, and the ferry tank wasn't working. So
Awesome.
Awesome, yeah, exactly. And kind of made a big boo-boo there, because I should have checked that ferry tank prior to crossing the point of no return. But I was young, cocky, invincible, and that system had been working for 3 days, so I figured it would work. But I was in a fix, because I definitely didn't have enough gas to get back, turn around and go back to Canada. Didn't have enough gas to get to even Ireland, let alone Paris. And so I needed that gas. And so I did some checking. Now, the way we use those ferry tanks is we would pressurize them with a hose that was run through the bottom of the plane to a J-tube, and the ram air would pressurize the tank, which would force the fuel out to the wings. And so I took apart that hose, and instead of getting a blast of cold air, there was nothing. So I figured, that's not working. So somehow I got to pressurize that tank. And I sat and looked at that hose and looked at the tank, like, started blowing.
Yeah, blowing it.
I can blow up an air mattress falling out of a ferry tank. And I was rewarded, like, yeah, it worked. I moved a little bit of gas and did some calculations. I didn't move very much gas. This is going to take all night. And so pretty much that was the rest of my night, hyperventilating into that tank all night to pressurize it. to move that gas. And as the airspace in the tank got bigger and bigger, as the fuel level dropped, I had to blow more and harder. And I was up at 15,000 feet, and I was pretty hypoxic, and it was the longest night of my life. But
We've done videos on hypoxia.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
You know, in watching the video that AOPA did on that, I had a question that you answered in the comments and tagged. Why not? Because when I was watching that, I was like, why not just stick the hose out the window? What's your answer to that?
yeah, that's what everybody says right away. It's like, one thing I forgot when we did that video was that side window had a metal plate on it, because that's where we run the HF radio, the high frequency radio. So it was bolted shut. I couldn't get anything out there. Otherwise, I probably would have. I just stuck it out there, and that would have been but I wouldn't have had that great story. So there you go.
This is true. You would have been less hypoxic, but
Right.
you wouldn't have gotten the story. So, okay, well, here's a fun question for you. Have you ever been thrown into a third world jail?
Actually thrown into the jail or
Or escorted into?
escorted. Sort of. I lost an alternator on my on a 210 one night flying over the Sahara, and so I didn't have any radio contact with anybody for 8 hours. Had to fly by flashlight all night. That's another long story.
Yeah, and I want to save that story for another video with you.
Okay.
But yeah.
But anyway, when I finally got to the airport manager was none too pleased that they hadn't heard from me all night for 12 hours, and they were going to toss me in jail. But luckily, this is in Ivory Coast. It's run by the French, and those guys they run 9 months on, 3 months off, and he was going home for his 3 months off that evening, and he said, "You're lucky because I don't have the time to throw you in jail today." So,
Wow, that's fortunate.
Yeah.
Good timing, good timing.
Okay, as we're all aviators, we know that aviation is chock full of cliches. So how would you, and I call this cliche number 37, you know, the old bold pilots, there's no blah, blah, blah. How do you respond to that? Because you certainly have been reading this book, you are an incredibly bold pilot.
Well, he's not that old. So, I mean,
Yeah. So how do you respond to the no old bold pilots? Because you clearly are breaking that cliche.
yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. There's one thing: there's no old bold pilots. There are no old bold crappy pilots,
we forgot the asterisk.
or unlucky. You kind of have to have those two other things in there.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so we're going to have to, you know, I do want to save the story about the 210 for another time, but what's another story that you can tell us that, you know, AOPA hasn't covered? There's so many in this book, but what really strikes you as far as something that the aviation public can take from, learn from, to make them better?
Oh, I guess probably the time I got iced up in the Aerostar.
Right.
That was kind of an interesting one. So one of the funnest planes I've ever flown, got to ferry, was a Piper Aerostar. Fastest piston twin ever built. Awesome plane. And I was just in heaven. I mean, it's turbocharged, pressurized, fully de-iced rocket ship. What a blast. I'd picked up the owner in London. I was ferrying it from Arizona to Cyprus, and we made a stop in Zurich for fuel. And looked at the weather coming out of Zurich, and they called for some light icing up over the Alps. I had to cross the Alps to get over to the Mediterranean. But I'm in this fully capable, de-iced plane. What could possibly go wrong? And I'm young and invincible. I'm just ice, whatever. And we take off. And from Zurich to the top of the Alps is 19,000 feet in a relatively short span. I mean, Zurich is literally at the base of the Alps. So we start climbing up and start picking up some ice. No problem. Hit the boots, ice is flying off in nice, satisfying chunks. Like, got the windshield on, got the props on. Like, yeah, love a capable airplane. Then the speed starts dropping and dropping, and the climb rate starts dropping, and I can't see it, but I know that, you know, I'm over the Alps, and I'm trying to climb over this 19,000 foot peak, and the speed keeps dropping, and the climb rate keeps dropping, and it starts getting kind of sloppy. You know, what I think happened is I think I got a big chunk of ice on the tail beacon or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, even the cumulative ice just was slowing me way down. And I didn't make 19,000 feet. I made almost 19,000.
Oh,
I was
wow.
coming over the top, barely hanging on. And now I wasn't just going for it. I knew I could possibly turn around and go back down to Zurich, coast it downhill. I didn't want to do that because, number one, that's not the way I wanted to go. I'm trying to go to Cyprus, so mission. But I also was thinking I'm going to have to go back down through that ice. I'm so close. And I was really watching it close. I wasn't going to let it stall, but the owner was a little nervous.
I bet he was. I bet he
I mean,
was.
I'm
tried
nervous
to-
just listening to the story,
Yeah, so stuff like that. There's been times that I've pushed it maybe a little bit too far, but there's sometimes I didn't really have a choice. The thing with your ferry flying is once you pass the point of no return, you have to deal with what you encounter. If you're over the Atlantic and you come up to a line of thunderstorms, you can't turn around. There's no time out. It's like, well, pick your way through. If you get into icing over the Atlantic, change altitude, do something.
Yeah. So do you ferry airplanes anymore?
I do. It's because I've got this medical condition. It's called can't say no-itis. I get talked into the dumbest stuff. I don't do it very much anymore. I'm really trying to quit the single engine over the North Atlantic at night habit. My wife would really appreciate that, but I still have to do a trip or so a year because it's just such a great adventure. I can't stop.
Do you do any other flying outside of ferrying?
Yep, yeah. I fly skydivers a lot. I own a skydiving school in Minneapolis. I'm full-time doing that all summer. I fly corporate out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, fly Citation 650. And then my personal airplane's a Beech Queen Air, big old piston twin, go bombing around the country. Big old beast.
Old cantankerous airplane.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, maybe a little.
a little, yeah. She's got an attitude.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a question I have. A while back, I had guys on to talk about the argument of a single engine versus twin. And one question I want to ask you, clearly, over the Atlantic, it's always better to have a twin, but let me ask you this, twin engine piston versus a single engine PT6 or turboprop, what would you take?
Over the ocean?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to have to go with the turbine. I mean, it's really close, but the problem when you're over the ocean is if you lose one engine, you might be able to hold altitude, but your range is cut down so much, you might not
Make it
make
still.
it. So you still might end up in the water. So single engine turbine, a little more reliable. I think.
I was going to say it boils down to the reliability. So
Yeah,
that opinion still holds.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Okay. Well, Kerry, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have you back to talk about your 210, because that's my plane, trip across Africa. So thank you for coming.
Pleasure.
All right. And thank you guys for watching. If you like it, please like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff. And if you want to order Christy's favorite color t-shirt, blue, we've got the links in the description. So let us know your comments. Are there no old, bold pilots, or can there be? So we'll see you guys next time.
In the hangar.